Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the Thames Valley. The 16-year-old killed when a wall collapsed in Aldershot. His family's reaction as a company is sentenced at Crown Court.
As a family, we hope that the end of this court case will bring us some closure to be able to grieve for our son and the life we thought he would live.
The inquest into the death of Reading head teacher Ruth Perry. The head of Ofsted admits changes need to be made in how inspectors are trained.
Also this Monday, tackling crime off-road. The new Thames Valley Police team chasing suspects on quad bikes and motorbikes.
You get both legs? Both legs. Really keep a strong hold really and get their heads covered.
And we meet the wildlife rescue volunteers who work all hours to save and care for injured animals. Good evening. The family of a 16-year-old boy who was killed when a wall fell on him in Aldershot say they hope no other family will go through the pain they have endured. Well, today a company was fined £90,000 for health and safety failings.
Rhys Geving, who was 16 years old, died when the freestanding wall collapsed on Grosvenor Road near the town centre in February 2020. From Winchester Crown Court, Derek Johnson sent this.
Well, Rhys Geving was described by his family as a big-hearted, a cheeky boy full of energy, but he died after a freestanding wall collapsed on him in Aldershot back in February 2020. According to onlookers, he'd been sitting on a metal chain that was attached to the wall, bouncing on it only for about 30 seconds or so. Now, this chain was to be used as a barrier to block unauthorised parking in a car park. The problem is that the wall wasn't strong enough to take any weight that was put on the chain. Staines Steel Gate Company Limited installed this metal chain. It's now in liquidation. It pleaded guilty to failing to comply with a section of the Health and Safety at Work Act. This systematic failure, in effect, is what led to the teenager's death. We heard from the family after the sentencing via a police officer and from Rushmore Borough Council, which brought this prosecution.
His younger siblings, Tia and Tyler, missed their older brother hugely. His death has left a huge hole in all our hearts. His older brother, Callum, has used Rhys's name as one of the middle names for his baby son. As a family, we hope that the end of this court case will bring us some closure to be able to grieve for our son and the life we thought he would live. He will live on in all our hearts and in the memories we have of him.
This case sends a clear message to companies and individuals to use appropriate industry guidance to carry out the required risk assessments and implement required controls. The law is there to protect everyone, and Rushmore Borough Council will take appropriate enforcement action where necessary. We hope Rhys's legacy is that no one else ever loses their life in this way again.
The judge in this case was Her Honour Judge Angela Morris. She said the company's lack of care and attention was lamentable, that it should have made an assessment as to whether this wall was strong enough for a chain to be used and should have looked at other options as well. She said this young man had all his life ahead of him, and for it to be taken away in such random and devastating circumstances is cruel beyond words. She said no money would ever make up for somebody's death, but she did award compensation to Rhys's mother for about £15,000 to cover funeral expenses and ordered prosecution costs to be paid. The court was told those costs would be met by insurers, not so the fine. This heaps tragedy upon tragedy for the family less than a year before Rhys's brother Luke, his older brother, another older brother, was killed in a car crash.
Derek Johnson reporting there from Winchester Crown Court. Next, MPs are debating whether to extend interim payments to victims of the infected blood scandal. Up to 30,000 people were given contaminated blood products in the 1970s and 80s. Thousands have died, among them more than 80 students with haemophilia who attended Treloar College in Alton. If successful, the amendment could see the government forced to bring forward compensation payments to the parents and children of victims.
Rail passengers face major overcrowding today and are being warned of more delays and cancelled trains this week. Structural defects have been found on a footbridge over the Quay line to Waterloo. And as a safety precaution, South Western Railway trains will be running at much slower speeds. Well, scaffolding put up to secure the bridge will be taken down on Wednesday. And that's the same day emergency work will take place to repair a landslip between Woking and Basingstoke. And industrial action by the ASLEF union will affect SWR trains on Wednesday and GWR and Heathrow Express services on Thursday.
Ofsted's National Director of Education has admitted changes need to be made to how its inspectors are trained. Christopher Russell has been giving further evidence at the inquest into the death of Reading head teacher Ruth Perry.
Well, the 53-year-old's family say she took her own life in January when Ofsted downgraded Caversham Primary School from outstanding to inadequate.
Well, from the inquest in Reading, Mel Blore sent this report.
The coroner told the fifth day of the inquest that she was looking at four main themes in a bid to determine whether she should issue a Regulation 28 report to Ofsted about what actions could be taken to prevent further deaths. The themes are the conduct of inspectors, including training and the possibility of pausing an inspection, Ofsted's grading system, its confidentiality requirements and the timeline for report publication. Now, earlier in the inquest, Ofsted inspectors told the coroner pausing the inspection at Caversham Primary School was an option and could have been requested by the school. However, staff there say they were never told that. Questioning Ofsted's National Director of Education, Christopher Russell, the coroner pointed to the inspector training material given to her by the watchdog and said none of this documentation gives indications that you can pause inspections because of teacher welfare. Mr. Russell confirmed there was no such written guidance on the subject. He also told the inquest some changes had already been made to training as a result of Mrs. Perry's death, but admitted more could be done. The inquest continues with the coroner expected to deliver her conclusion on Thursday.
Mel Blore reporting there. In other news, the family of a motorcyclist from Wallingford who was killed say their world has come crashing down. Stephen McDermott, who was in his 50s and had 5 grandchildren, was killed at the Hithercroft roundabout in Wallingford 2 weeks ago. Well, paying tribute, his family says he had the craziest sense of humour and lived and breathed motorbikes.
A consultation on plans to turn the whole of Oxford into a smoke control area opened today and will run until the end of January. It means homes and businesses can only use approved wood-burning stoves and fuels, including eco-fuels, fire logs and briquettes. Oxford currently has 23 smoke control areas in place, covering around half of the city, including the city centre and East Oxford.
Meanwhile, Oxford City Council is seeking approval from Cabinet to continue using glyphosate to tackle weeds and invasive plants. Well, it says the herbicide is used 3 times a year in a limited and controlled way to minimise the environmental impacts.
Some happy news on a lighter note as Christmas has come early for one Hampshire resident. Phil the pig has been living at a rescue centre for 620 days, but he's just been moved to his new home, a small holding in Droxford, where he'll be surrounded by lots of other animals.
I love the way that he keeps eating as he's driven away.
Well, you would, wouldn't you?
It would do.
He's always hungry.
Keep snacking.
Yeah.
Now, a new off-road motorcycle team has been set up to try to tackle antisocial behaviour in the Thames Valley. 3
bikes have been bought from a £120,000 fund as part of a new initiative called Operation Trail. Officers can now deploy this team to crimes in hard-to-reach areas or to help search for vulnerable people on open land. With more details, here's Cara Digby.
Tackling crime off-road. There are times when suspects might try to lose the police where a patrol car can't reach them, but these new bikes hope to level the playing field.
We're covered by lots of farmland, lots of agricultural land. The off-road bikes can go and reach some of the areas, the tracks, the woodlands, the parks, in some of the rural areas where it's having an increase in theft, an increase in agricultural theft, and we can tackle those type of offences. In the urban areas, we've seen an increase in people using off-road motorbikes, quad bikes, illegal e-bikes. And this gives us a tool to go off-road now rather than on the road, which we've got traditional tactics for, but we can go off-road now with these bikes into urban areas, footpaths, parks, to try and tackle these type of problems.
Officers across the Thames Valley will be able to call upon this dedicated team to help target those causing misery and danger in the community.
Well, I think this does make a real difference. There's issues of what some people think of as low-level criminality, which doesn't really exist. These things can really impact communities, and antisocial behaviour, which is a huge issue for people. And often there will be a frustration both from the police and the public. They feel the police are perhaps powerless to pursue someone. This is about being really getting after those people who are causing problems in our communities and making sure that we create that hostile environment for people who will commit crime in Thames Valley.
If the bikes prove a success, more of them will be bought, with additional officers trained up to ride them, putting the pressure on those committing antisocial behaviour, whether that be on or off-road. Cara Digby, ITV News, Reading.
Well, you are watching ITV News Meridian. All the highs and lows, of course, are from the weekend FA Cup games. Andrew will be here with the sport. But Reading fans, well, you may want to look away.
Yes, also coming up, we're in Sussex with the wildlife rescue charity that cares for thousands of sick and injured animals every year, and you'll be amazed at just what they do.
And December has thrown plenty of mixed weather our way so far. I'll be back with a look at the weekend just gone and the next few days ahead.
To that. Well, and of course you can find out more on today's top stories at itv.com/Meridian. If you have a story, why not give us a call? The number, as always, 0808 1010 095, and you can also follow us on social media.
Next, one of the South's MPs has called for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to be stripped of their titles. Bob Seeley from the Isle of Wight says he will present his Titles Deprivation Act amendment bill later this month. He thinks the couple are damaging to the monarchy. People in Crawley were divided over his plan today.
I wish them all the best, what they do. But lose the title. Yeah, definitely.
They left the country, didn't they? They deserted what Harry was brought up for, and now they just keep getting in front of the media and moaning all the time.
Yeah, I just feel sorry for him. I'm not sure they should be stripped of his titles, but...
Hampshire campaigner and broadcaster Chris Packham filed a High Court challenge today against the government's climate policies. Well, he's applied for a judicial review over the decision to delay the phasing out of petrol and diesel vehicles, as well as gas boilers. Rishi Sunak said he did not want to burden ordinary people with the cost they would incur. Mr Packham wrote to the Prime Minister in the autumn, saying he didn't have the legal right to change the timeline of carbon budget pledges. Well, the government says it will robustly defend the challenge.
The Chailey Heritage Foundation in Sussex is trying to raise £20,000 for its hydrotherapy services. It says its work makes a massive difference to the lives of young people with complex disabilities. The charity has highlighted 6-year-old Seth, who can now move his legs and arms in the water, which is not something he's able to do independently out of the water.
It's wonderful, isn't it? Now £100,000 has been secured to plant mini forests and community orchards across Hampshire as a tribute to King Charles III's coronation. It's part of the County Council's goal to plant 1 million trees by 2050 in urban and rural locations to combat the climate emergency and restore wildlife habitats.
Talking of wildlife, a threatened bird that was ringed as a chick has returned to a Sussex nature reserve to raise her own family. The lapwing has successfully fledged 4 chicks at the RSPB's Pulborough Brooks Reserve.
It's rather lovely, isn't it? Well, the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. For more, to London and Mary Nightingale.
Coming up in the programme, homes without power, schools closed and hundreds of cars marooned, the lives being disrupted by severe weather. Heavy snow has led to a major incident being declared in Cumbria, with warnings for heavy rain and potential flooding elsewhere. The government's new plan to lower record numbers of legal migration to the UK. And homeward bound after 12 years, Edinburgh's giant pandas head for China. Well, do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
It's got visions of the panda chilling in departures, but I'm guessing that's not where it was. Right, let's talk about sport. Andrew joins us in the studio. The FA Cup certainly delivered this weekend. It was good fun.
That's why we love it, don't we? It was such a special weekend for non-league Eastleigh. Aldershot are also in the hat for round 3. But another desperate day for Reading fans. It means the draw sees Eastleigh travel to League Two Newport or Barnet, while Aldershot will be off to Championship side West Brom if they can beat Stockport in their replay. Sarah Gom has the highs and lows of a busy weekend of FA Cup action.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Eastleigh manager Richard Hill described victory over Reading as one of the best days at this club, with the National League Spitfires seeing off their League One opponents, all thanks to a last-gasp winner, Paul McCallum, showing his credentials as the league's top scorer. McCallum had already put his side in front, but when Femi Aziz equalised just 4 minutes from time, it looked like this tie was heading up to Berkshire for a replay. And the Reading fans who'd already staged a protest against owner Dyer Young looked to have at least something to celebrate. McCallum, though, had other ideas, setting up a third-round tie at either League Two Newport or non-league Barnet. Fellow National League side Aldershot put themselves in the hat, having forced a replay at League Two leaders Stockport. Josh Stokes' brace means the Shots will head to Stockport for a replay next week, with the winners of that match playing Championship West Brom in the next round. Non-league Horsham bowed out of their historic cup run with defeat at Sutton United. The Lardy men made life difficult for their League Two opponents, but couldn't keep them at bay, conceding 3 goals in the last 30 minutes. The scoreline, though, not putting any dent in their fans' pride.
Oh, it's disappointing, but we did so well.
It was a good game. I think it was very close. I mean, there wasn't a great deal between the teams, I thought. But Sutton took their chances and Horsham didn't.
They were arguing amongst themselves more than they were playing football, but they still got 3 goals.
I think Horsham held their own. They thought they were fantastic, actually, defended well.
And Oxford United, flying high in League One, are through after head coach Des Buckingham recorded his first win with the club, sending League Two Grimsby Town out with goals either side of the break.
Finally, for me, it was a really great weekend for one of our racehorse trainers because That's All Right Gino romped home to win the Coral Gold Cup, which is Newbury's big jump race. Trained by Jamie Snowden at his stables in Lambourne, That's All Right Gino came from last to first to take the title, with jockey Gavin Sheehan steering him home. Well done, That's All Right Gino, who sprinted past Harry Redknapp's horse called Shake 'em Up Harry with 2 fences to go.
What great names.
Yeah. Brilliant, isn't it?
I'm glad you
Love
said
it.
that one because I could never have Datsal, whatever it was, but the Harry one is a great Harry.
Shake it up.
Shake it up.
Just saying
Lovely.
words.
Thanks so much,
Andrew, thank you.
Now, it began as a hobby 38 years ago when Trevor Weeks started rescuing injured birds and wild animals. Well, today, Trevor heads up a charity that cares for 5,000 casualties every year.
Yes, East Sussex Wildlife Rescue works hard to treat injured animals and, where possible, release them back into the wild. It relies on donations from the public to keep up with the soaring demand for its services. With more, here's Malcolm Shaw.
At West Ham Pond near Pevensey, a cygnet is in trouble. The adult birds have been attacking the young swan, even driving it onto the road. Experts from East Sussex Wildlife Rescue have been called in.
They're very territorial, and actually the parents are trying to get rid of it, trying to kick it off a site. So we've had quite a few phone calls about not just trying to push it off, but being quite vicious with it. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and catch the cygnet and remove it for its own safety.
But that's easier said than done. The cygnet is spooked and takes to the water. The team have no alternative but to follow suit, gently closing in from different angles.
Well done.
Eventually, the bird is safely netted and brought ashore to be relocated elsewhere.
Our safety has to be a priority as well as the animal safety. Now, I've been in this pond numerous times having to catch sick and injured animals, so I know the base of this pond relatively well, so I know how fast I can move in certain areas. The swan looks fine, fit and healthy otherwise, but just that the parents just don't want the young around because they're now thinking about next year's young.
Back at the Charities Hospital in Whitesmith, vet Clarissa Wu has her first case of the day, an injured hedgehog found in a car park in Eastbourne.
And there's some blood around the face and the nose pointing at a weird angle, so we're just gonna anaesthetize the hedgehog and see what exactly is going on.
An X-ray reveals nothing seriously wrong, but the wound on the hedgehog's nose needs stitching. He's also given antibiotics and pain relief, but he's so cold it's delaying the anaesthetic wearing off, and there's an anxious wait. Eventually the hedgehog begins to come round. Hopefully he's through the worst.
So it's very different working with wildlife compared to domestic animals. Like if you work in an animal hospital, you got like a list of schedule, a concert, so you know what is coming through your door. Well, for us working in wildlife, people can literally drop in animals anytime, or we might receive a phone call saying certain animals needs to be rescued. So you never know what's going to come through the door, and it's just exciting in that sense.
We're constantly building on wildlife's environment really, and they're getting less and less space and getting in more and more trouble through human causes, be it the fishing like we just saw, the gull, road casualties, netting entanglements, even down to being shot unfortunately, and those cases are caused by us, so then we need to have something to help those animals out and hopefully return them back to the wild.
The charity's founder, Trevor Weeks, started rescuing wildlife 38 years ago.
Can you get both legs?
Both legs.
Really keep a strong hold
Really
and get
strong.
their heads covered. Completely covered, over the top of the antlers and everything.
Here, two fallow stags have become entangled in electric fencing, binding the terrified deer together.
I think all you've got is those strands there.
Yeah. Trevor's work has earned him an MBE. The service he created now deals with over 5,000 casualties every year.
We've got 13 members of staff now, and they're not all full-time, only some of them are part full-time. And we've got 170 volunteers, and they're the backbone of the organisation. Without those volunteers, we could not exist, you know. And they work exceptionally hard, you know, doing the feed and clean shifts, getting them dirty and mucky, and then, you know, the rescuers going out there and jumping in ponds and jumping across hedges, to the people that go out there and help with fundraising or working in our charity shop. It's a lot of work, and it needs a lot of people.
For the rescued cygnet, a brighter future lies ahead. It's released back onto a lake at Prince's Park in Eastbourne, where the other swans are non-territorial. A good day's work for the team.
I started as a volunteer nearly 5 years ago, and then became employed. I just love the wildlife, anything to help them, whether it's feeding and cleaning or coming out on rescues. This is the best part. Releasing them is absolutely the best part of what we do.
East Sussex Wildlife Rescue receives no state funding. It's vital work to prevent suffering, entirely dependent on donations from the public. Malcolm Shaw, ITV News.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
I think they're just, as Pip has joined us now, said, we need more Trevors because they're just wonderful people.
Yeah, they really are.
All those animals love the work. So Pip is here. And Pip, we've had quite a mixed sort of weather, haven't we, over the weekend?
Yeah, December is throwing a lot at us so far. The weekend, very much a weekend of two halves. I'm going to cast our minds back to Saturday. Definitely the colder half of the weekend. Some frost, some fog, but it gave us some beautiful scenes, such as this one from David in Dorset. Really kind of ethereal, misty, murky scenes there. And it also gave us this. Can you guess what this is? This is not sea fog. It is
mist of some description.
Well, it's sea smoke. Yeah, so it's slightly different to sea fog. Now, it's actually known as Arctic sea smoke because it usually happens in the Arctic or the Antarctic regions where the air is much colder. We don't usually see it off the south coast of the UK, but Nigel Pace spotted it off the south of the Isle of Wight there. Now, it's slightly different to sea fog. So sea fog forms when warm air moves over a cold sea. Sea smoke happens when cold air there moves over a warm sea. So the air actually cools the surface of the sea and forces it to sort of condense. You get this steamy, smoky effect, very much like a hot cup of tea on a chilly day, which we all like, don't we?
Which I would quite like now.
Yes.
So let's move things along. So weather all change has been a bit mixed and rubbish.
Yeah. So obviously yesterday was really rainy, today really rainy. Take a look quickly at this pressure sequence. Low pressure in charge today. Bit of a respite on Wednesday, but as we get to Thursday, Friday, the isobar squeeze, low pressure takes over. We could see another named storm by the end of the week. But that's a little way off. Let's get a look at the forecast for now.
Whatever the weather, it always feels like home. Valent Heat Pumps and Boilers sponsor ITV Meridian Weather.
So the next few days look decidedly unsettled. A brief respite Tuesday into Wednesday, but thereafter further spells of rain coming our way, and it will become pretty windy at times too. And we still have quite a bit of rain on the scene at the moment. That will stay with us for most of this evening and tonight. A good deal of cloud cover as well. But of course, underneath the cloud and rain, it will be a frost-free night. Temperatures holding up at around 4 or 5 Celsius for most of us. Tomorrow morning then, a rather grey and damp start for many once again. But unlike today, as we head through the afternoon, I think there will be some signs of improvement. The rain will tend to break up into just a few showers, and for some of the lucky few, we could see just a little glimmer of brightness coming through. However, none of that is going to help the temperatures. If anything, a little chillier than today, as we'll take on more of a northwesterly wind, highs of just 6 or 7 degrees. These are the times of high water for tomorrow. Then just the one there for Portland, 11:18 in the morning. So some showers around to round off tomorrow, but it's overnight into Wednesday where things quieten down for just a time. A weak ridge of high pressure giving us some clear spells, leading to some frosty conditions by Wednesday morning, and perhaps 1 or 2 mist and fog patches once again. But thereafter, it will be all change. We'll see low pressure taking over from the west, spells of rain quite persistent and heavy at times, and some really rather strong winds. Do take very good care. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Valent Heat Pumps and Boilers sponsor ITV Meridian Weather.
On that rather soggy note, that is it from us. The ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale is coming up very shortly.
You were delayed coming back later on, so join Matt for that. But for now, for all the team here, thanks for your company. Have a lovely evening. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.